Know what matters to you. To me, the essence of emotional freedom is having a sense of what really matters to me in my core and having enough freedom to be able to feel those things as a part of my life experience. To me, across the whole palette of different emotions, there are certain ones that really speak to me. And there are ones that I know are embodied in, as I look around the workshop, I see people and I know that they embody certain emotional states that aren't necessarily the ones that are core to me. But together, when we support each other in knowing what matters and getting a chance to express that, to me, that's the essence of emotional freedom. I was talking to my partner, Jem, and we were saying that when you know the things that matter, and as you look at the arc of your day and of your week, you get a chance to be in that state. Not perfectly, just like sometimes we drive and we get stuck in traffic, or even the car starts slipping on the ice, or we get even a little lost. But if you're let's say, you know inside of you that being generous is good for you. If you get no opportunity to be generous, that something inside of you is not getting expressed. If you're somebody who is bold, like bold is not one of my emotional states, but it was really cool to get people who said the one that I really want to feel is bold. Now, if 3 months from now, you sit down and you realize that I've gotten a chance to be bold, but not bold like my Uncle Bob does bold. Like that kind of his bold is not my bold, but I've gotten to be my kind of bold. I've gotten to have that feeling like, oh, yeah, that part of me is alive here. And that part of me is a participant. My boldness is a participant in what I'm being and what I'm doing. And so knowing what matters to you, to me, is a first step. Now, I also loved it that when I asked the question, some people came back with just a poetic bouquet. If you've seen one of those floral bouquets and you look at it and go, wow, I don't even know the names of all those daisies. I know that one, but you see everything and it's just, it fits together and it's just, wow, this bouquet of different emotions. For this focus group, the invitation is to get clear about something that matters to you, one emotion, not to set the others aside that they won't be a part of your life, but to say 3 months from now, 3 weeks from now, 3 days from now, if I'm putting some attention on this emotional state for me, if I'm learning more deeply what it actually means to me, how it's going to express as me, how I want to bring it into the relationships that matter to me. If I'm doing that and I'm building out a menu of choices, that ways that I know that are easier for me to get there, that at the end of that stretch, I believe that you'll be able to say that is definitely an active part of who I am as a human being, that I have reactivated it, I've cultivated it, I've refined it, I've gotten some more savvy and skill, and that, yes, I have that. And in the temptation to say, I want to be this and this and this and this and this and this, there's, I don't know what the right word is. Maybe somebody else has it. It's not necessarily a distraction, but it says to us that all of these are important and it doesn't invite our whole being from head to toe to get enough time and attention and engagement to be able to Yes, that lutes our focus. And so the invitation is to try this on. We're going to be doing 7 different workshops. I'm also going to be doing some short bullet points as reminders as a companion course for this. And I want to say this, when tapping came along for me, I had a craving. And that craving was that I really didn't feel like emotionally I was living as Rick, who I knew myself to be. I don't believe that while I was born to someone who's very worried, I don't believe that my mother's worry is any more like who she is than it was for me. I said, like, I just want to be able to manage my own emotions. But it wasn't until I got clear that there's an essential part of me that resonated with calm and confident. You've probably noticed that I do a lot of stuff around calm and confident, the two going together. Be forever grateful to Dr. Patricia Carrington because it was in her choices book. I was looking through all the choices. And when I saw calm and confident, I was like, oh, that's me and not me. Does that make sense? It's like, oh, that's me. Yeah, that's me, and totally not the way I was walking in the world. Maybe totally not is too strong. I'd been meditating for almost 10 years, about 7 years at that point. That's a lot of meditation. So I was able to quiet the noise for periods of time, but not actually walk as someone who was calm and confident. And so I spent 6 months when anything would come up, and I was like, even though I'm worried right here, I'm wondering how I could be calm and confident anyway. I've decided to be calm and confident anyway. I'm curious if I could be calm and confident here. Or I'm open and I'm really asking and praying to be a bit more calm and confident here. And what I noticed is that through that focus in my tapping and in my meditation and my journaling, those were skills that I had been practicing, that this dropping into what does it mean to me to be calm and confident? What does that look like in the world? And by doing that, I started changing the way just naturally things in my life started to change. How I rode the horse, we had horses. If I did a tapping round or 2 or 3 before I got on the horse, it wasn't that I was perfectly calm and confident, but the horse could tell. My intention and my tuning was different. I was radiating a different vibe. And that's also part of this. When we know what matters to us, I believe that people who are empathetic pick that up. Oh, maybe they're being a little grumpy right now, but I can tell, I can feel their vibe that what matters to them is to be more calm and confident. If I know, as soon as I knew that what I wanted to be was calm and confident, my inner critic, my experience of my inner critic changed. It's hard to explain, but it's like if I know I want to be calm and confident rather than perfect, then my inner critic doesn't have the same kind of go to as it did before. And it gave me something that I could tap on very specifically too. So, my why, and the one I'm inviting for our circle and our group here, our focus group here, is if emotional freedom matters to you and there's some essence in you that you would like to express more, that if you really owned it more deeply and completely, that it would contribute and enhance your thriving. That's one of the intentions for landing on. It may be that you land on something and it refines. That's perfectly cool. It may be that you have 2 things that go together. It may be that you decide to do this a bit differently. I eager, which is my practice for this period of time. I'm eager, which tonight means profoundly curious, where we're gonna where we're gonna go together as a group, the group of us. So What question comes up for you, or what noise comes up for you? Hearing me say that, feeling the invitation, is there a contraction, disconnection, or openness? What's coming up for you? The chat is open, and I'm going to go look at my outline. So one person asked, I want to know more about how the inner critic quiets once you have more clarity on what matters to you. Someone says, I have a hard time figuring out one or two things. I can think of seven. How do I tune into one? Great. We're going to be doing that. The big issue for me is feeling pressured to feel larger feelings than I actually feel. Which is great because that's the next thing we're going to. Thank you. So many years of doing inner work. Does it ever stop? It feels like disconnection confusion for me. And the noise is, I really don't know. It changes all the time. So integrating those for a moment. I'm the type of person that resists landing on one. So if you want to do a tapping with me, we could try something here. Even though this seems hard and confusing in certain ways, I'm open to clarity about one thing, one emotion that matters to me right now in my life. Matters to me. It's not about them. Even though my thoughts tend to go right to the negative, it's okay for me to stop and drop in here. My emotions matter to me. They're the soundtrack, vibrations of my life. And I want to have more savvy with them and express the things that matter. Top of the head. But it's so confusing. Eyebrow. Maybe it's clarity that I want. Side of the eye. It feels like disconnection to me. Under the eye. Am I asking for more connection or more solitude? Under the nose. But it changes all the time. Chin. Good. And it's okay for me to pick one I want to experience regularly. Hold on. Does the inner work ever stop? Darn. Maybe I'm asking to feel content with who I am and what I feel right now. Top of the head. Don't I have to be super duper ecstatically joyful? Eyebrow. What if what is right for me, side of the eye, doesn't have to be a big, large feeling under the eye? I get to decide what it is under the nose. And there's good news. Chin. There's no wrong answer. It's okay for me to get savvy with an emotion. Thank you. Take a breath. So I want to read what someone shared. Thank you. What seems to happen is a never ending buffet of things I want to change. I land on one thing, and for a few hours, that seems like it would be the thing that will make the biggest difference. It would solve most things. And then over the course of a few hours, it's a different thing that becomes the thing that will make everything better for me. This ever revolving list of things goes on incessantly. So I was looking at my daughter, who's 2, and she's down at the bottom of the stairs, and I'm up on the 2nd floor, and it's open stairwell. And it struck me that because there are 16 steps, she can actually get to the 2nd floor, even though she's not really savvy yet with steps or life as a whole. She can take small steps. And to me, I know that reading these words, every single one of those essential qualities that you want to have, any one of them could be picked and say, this is the thing. Because in that moment, it would provide what? Replenishment, encouragement, relief. It could provide all kinds of different things. So at any given point in the day, if you asked me, is being eager going to solve the thing? And if I'm sitting there with blocked from work, if I said, yeah, if I can tune into my eagerness, that's going to get me moving and that'll make this better. To me, the baby step of giving yourself I am going to drop in, not exclusively, but I am going to touch base with my body, mind, and spirit around this emotional state because it happens to be one of the rainbow of ones and not about fixing anything. It's about expressing a part of me. And that part of me feels like it is ripe and ready and wanting to be expressed. That to me is the whole landscape. If you're mapping it out, every time you change, it goes on a card of, look, this matters to me. And if you have 7 of them, yeah, all of these matter. And I am not trying to use this to fix my life. What I am doing is honoring, and again, why you do it, that's up to you to determine. I know Jem decided over the holidays that her focus word, we were doing this thriving in the coming year. And I mentioned it to her. And very privately, she decided that savoring, it's something like whether it's food or experiences or people or anything, like that really is a core part of who she is. And I can tell you that her having that as the touch point to come back to changed our holiday. It definitely changed the holidays for her. And so, does it fix anything? I don't view the emotional world as broken. I'm choosing to say, there's a part of me that as a young child was eager about life experiences, and that was get is has gotten suppressed, unexercised. earnest, competent. I was practicing those. Those are good and useful. I want to have them part of my life. But by tuning to eager, I can use that to change everything. Going to the grocery store with Adira. I can go there as a task that I'm very competent at. I have my list. I know where the things are. I can get her out of the car, get her in a cart, whatever. But if I'm eager I'm really like, ooh, I'm guessing we're going to see something that's going to really, I wonder what's going to catch her eye. I wonder what this experience is going to be like. It's not a big, yeah, but just by saying, I wonder what I could be eager about. As soon as we walked in, she points to the to the balloons, and she's just got this glow on her face. If I hadn't tuned to eagerness, I could have turned to curiosity. I could have turned to playfulness. I could have tuned, any of those would have worked to change my relationship with going to the grocery store. But by tuning to something that really matters to me, that I'm working on, meaning working with, it's an energy. It changed the experience. Someone shared, I love the feeling of contentment. And that feels like one for me. Yeah, contentment can be a relief. It can also be that, like for very young oriented people that are really about producing and putting out there, contentment can be like savoring for some other people. It's I wonder, or yeah, I feel the pushing. I'm wondering, could I feel contentment here for a minute or two? And there's more. Um, so someone said, this is a little hard to express, but I would like to have permission to feel the emotions that I was never allowed to feel, the forbidden emotions. For example, anger. This does not mean it's a favorite emotion. It just means I want to be able to feel the whole range of feelings. Yes. So there's a part, if what I'm hearing is, and this is for you to try on, okay, so anger was forbidden. So that kind of, to me, a forbidden emotion begs the question, am I feeling, is it an emotion that is actually part of my makeup? Now, anger is a pretty primal emotion. So there are people that that part of their primal nature has been suppressed. And so being able to explore, okay, where do I feel this in my body? What are a dozen ways that I can be with my anger in a way that enhances my clarity, my we did a workshop on turning anger into oomph. That's one pathway, but there's so many ways to be with our anger. What does it activate? Like exploring anger. There are, I have had clients that actually anger is not part of their energetic makeup. It's if you had an instrument and it didn't have the anger octave, there's nothing wrong with the instrument. It just doesn't have that octave. Where they may land is a kind of activation, that passion, for example, right? So like they just don't experience anger, but they may experience a kind of passion fire, like the fire, like we think of those fire of anger, fire of passion, but maybe their passion was suppressed. You need to quiet down. Or you're not going to make a difference in the world, or whatever it is. Yeah. I know people that were never allowed to grieve that have done this process where it's like, okay, I want to understand what grieving authentically looks like to me. I've had people say, grieving to me is actually going out in the forest, stripping naked, and just clawing at the ground. And I've had people say that when I see people processing their grief in that way, it's not me. And it's not like it's clear that's just not their way. So you can pick an emotion like grief, and the invitation is going to be for you to get to a place where you can articulate, at least to yourself, grieving has these tones to me. There's the, oh, I miss them. There's the, wow, there's a hole and I'm needing to tend to. Or there's a great regret. Again, like I am suggesting that the full range, the full palette of emotions are on the table here. So we're not if someone asked if you're from a family that was comfortable expressing anger, how to fit oneself into this workshop. I'm not sure at what point you joined, but we're exploring what's an emotion that matters to you. You may have anger, just yeah, we never had a problem with it. It's not something the part of me which can get angry. I'm not suppressed. I own that's a range that I can do. There's this other part of me. Maybe it's something else. Okay. Anything that comes up for people? I know some people have landed on something. So someone said, I want to ride out my anxiety by sitting with it. I'm tired of fearing it, even though it is hard. What would you call that emotional state of being? I've got some words that I put to that. Okay. If I'm actually riding out my anxiety with without the fear that I'm used to, what would you call that state? What's your word for it? The next thing I wanted to touch on, I so we've covered like this is a very deeply personal decision. To me, there are no wrong choices. That's the acceptance that we're bringing to this. We've been exploring some emotional options. I wanted to talk about um, the personal part of the personal decision. I had a client who said, let me get the words right. Oh, I feel like I need to be more joyful. The first keywords there for me are need to. And I said, what's up with that? It says that I don't smile enough. It can be really tempting to land and appreciate in some of the dialogues that I've had by email with some of you that it's joyful. I'd be doing that for someone else. That's not actually what matters to me right now. Again, bringing it back to the intimate. If you've landed on something or two or three things, see if you can tune into, yeah. Yeah, people should stop telling other people they don't smile enough. Are you shitting on me? That's always mine. If you let's pause here and try on if you have a couple of choices or you have one that you're trying on. There's the trying on in your head. If you're in a place where you can speak it aloud, you might try and see how it feels in your throat. Eager. And notice what happens in your heart, in your gut. Eager, fearless, joyful, appreciative, whatever it is for you, peaceful, content with myself, vibrant. wise fearlessness, balanced, adventurous, bold, carefree. And I've shared some other words that any of those. And again, like for people that like emotional freedom, chances are a lot of these are like, ooh, ooh, yes. Oh, I want that one. Oh. We're feeling for the one that is, you've got some sense, hopefully, not required, but a sense in your core that, yes, you're getting a body, yes, even if there's lots of noise. And if you landed on something like never depressed, that's not actually a state of being. It's like saying, I'm never going to go to Antarctica. Okay, yeah, upbeat. Now, if you have a problem with a challenge with being depressed, the step could be that what is upbeat what you're called to be? Like, for example, if I'm depressed and the upbeat might be, uh, ooh, hey. I'm still like a little down, but you could play with that. So I'm not saying that upbeat is too far, but this is something that I've noticed as I've explored with our community. Sometimes their energy could be really well served by something like presence. Like I get in my head, oh, okay. So what I want to practice is how could I be present with this? How can I be? There's a difference to me between upbeat and uplifted. Neither is, it's a very personal thing. And it's not just a word. There's an app, and I've mentioned it before. It's called How We Feel. Just in there are four quadrants. They ask you to pick whether you're low energy pleasant or low energy unpleasant, high energy pleasant, high energy unpleasant. Just in the low, what they call low energy pleasant, there's 24 choices: calm, good, relaxed, mellow, carefree, tranquil, peaceful, comfortable, chill, compassionate, understanding, supported, supportive, content, grateful, blessed. If you're looking for possibilities to explore that app, I think it's on both iPhone and Android, tuned in. So, like oh, I'm the type of person I want to be. I sense in me that this is true for me, that I want to be tuned in. That's one that I practice. I call it's drop in and tune to, which is tuned in two steps for me. So let's take that as an example. You can look at every transition that that you go into as, oh, as I arrive at my home, I want to tune to what the energy is. As I walk into the house, I want to tune to the energy, just be attuned. Like, what's the vibe? As I go from place to place, as I meet a person, as I leave, I tune into the we space, the home, the energy, the weather, tuned in. And make that, oh, I'm a tuned in person. How does that feel to you? Does that still feel good to you as I describe it? And if it means something different, please describe it if you'd like. It'd be good to never have to worry about getting depressed. Imagine if you had an app on your phone that permanently prevented you from falling into a slump. Yeah, interesting. Probably within a generation, people will be getting implants into their brains that might block in the same way that you can take an 88 key keyboard and snip the wires and now you don't have an octave and you're only playing the other octaves. I Depression to me is like happy. They're really broad. And so, for example, if you wanted to explore the kind of low, how you are when your energy is low, that could be like low energy and present. Like you could be present with your feelings. And I think most of the time when someone says that they are depressed, when I've gone into what's some more specific ways that you could, like, disengaged is sort of a kind of depression, apathetic, helpless, exhausted, lonely, isolated, burned out, glum, alienated, excluded, disconnected, lost, insecure, trapped, despondent, hopeless, despair. Depressed is one of the options there. Morose. I do think that the value in thriving and being emotionally free is to honor that if I am generally morose, that's the word that, like, oh God, hold on a second. I need to see what that one, sad and gloomy is their definition. If I'm really pretty morose, what would be a state that feels true in my core? Like that's where I'm singing, or that's where my vibe is. What's a vibration that I could go to that is actually true for me too? That even when I'm morose, like I've worked with, like, you're in that kind of down energy state, but it's you actually feel blessed. Maybe you don't practice it, maybe you don't savor it, maybe you don't get to spend much time feeling that, but it's a core part of who you are. I have a friend that like that. They struggle with the lower energy modes, but their go-to, the one that they practice most, is feeling blessed, and that helps them in every way as a parent and as a human. But without the worry and slumps, you can accomplish so many amazing things. So what's an emotion that is a good look for you? One that you just know that it'd be worthwhile to spend 3 months attuned to that. That would help you feel more yourself, and the things that you did from that place would feel more true. For example, if somebody is trying to accomplish something and they're morose, my word of the day, when they accomplish it, they are not going to feel amazing. It could be that if they can go from morose to, "I've got some competence that I'm just practicing an awareness of my competence, my humanity, and I do this thing." It may feel like competence to me can feel amazing. If I'm morose, I'm not gonna feel amazing even if I did exactly the same thing. That's part of the theory of thriving, is that your state of being is the way that we're human beings. We experience life through our state of being. So someone who wanted to be present and they're going to be exploring that could go deeply into what presence is. What are the practices that enhance presence? Mindfulness. There's, hundreds of books, podcasts, and everything else on mindfulness. I've started reading some articles and quotes and other things on eager. Some of them like don't fit me, and others are like, oh, okay, that adds to my repertoire, my my capacity. How about focused but not activated, not taken over by focus? And I'm not sure what you mean and what your experience of that is. But here's where, if you're drawn, like, I'm a focused person, I know that about me. I want to refine it. So like you can know that you capable of focus, but you want to refine it. And refining anything, like you take a ton of ore and you refine it down, and you're left with something very different. Like generosity. I always knew that I was a generous person, but by focusing on generosity for a period of time, I looked at how does it apply to doing acts around the house? How does it apply with friendship? How does it apply with my work? How does it apply with how I structure things? What does it actually do for me? Where do I feel it? Wh- How do I notice when I'm not that? That's one of the things that I'm excited about there too, is that you can take something that you want to revisit. Carol Look's going to be revisiting gratitude in February with her community. If you want to be appreciating or appreciative, that's why I want to do seven visits on this, is that as you go deeper in it, oh, what's when I'm focused, how could it be more delicious? How could it be something that nourishes and supports my thriving more? Gratitude is what I focus on, someone said. And to me, if my day doesn't have something, I'll say this, there's not been a day of my life where there wasn't something to appreciate. But it doesn't mean that for big swaths of time, I was so wrapped up in worry that I wasn't experiencing myself as an appreciator, as an appreciative and appreciating person. And so if that's where you are, where I'm an appreciator, but I don't actually do it, I don't actually feel it, I don't actually get the experience of doing that, to me, that makes it ripe here. Again, that's your choice. So we're going to take a quick 7 break here. And then we'll see where it goes. I'd like you to take 10 to yourself. If it's time for you to exit, please feel free. We will have the recording. And I'd love some shares in the chat, either during the break or after, about what's coming up for you so that we can help craft together this focus group. Welcome back. So if you are listening to the recording, I do invite you to have taken a short break to kind of let things integrate, see what questions you have rising. For me, the question that I I need to have an answer for, need to, as in it feels essential. It's essential for me to have answers as to why I'm going to do this work. Any change in my behavior, I find it helpful to have the grounding. So I'm going to do this exercise on my card as you consider what this emotion that you'd like to enhance, have experience, have some savvy with. I really can get to that place of being with some art. And when the things that come up that block me and or used to really suppress me, I've got those that are shifting. I'm becoming more clear. I can focus in my energy for that experience. If you had that emotional experience as a regular thing in your life, what would that do for you? Why go to this effort? Why show up here to do this? 3 months from now, imagine that I can feel that. I can feel it. I know it now more vividly inside of me. That's a part of my world. It's mine. What would that do for you? So someone said, 2 years ago, would not have chosen fearless, but after making a huge move that was nowhere near what I had imagined it would be, and 2 months after that, spending 5 weeks in the hospital with COVID, I feel contracted and afraid to get out in the world again. And knowing this person, being out in the world, feeling the beauty of nature and the like feels. And so you and I, we tried on fearless, and I had a deer that wise fearlessness. Feel free to, if it's helpful to you, to modify this with a word that ideally is not a not word. Never mind. Wise fearlessness going together might be a really good fit, whereas fearless, your primitive brain goes, oh, that's not actually who we are. But to me, like the embodiment of wise fearlessness is, look, I know what matters to me. This matters to me. I've evaluated the risk and I'm using my clarity to take action rather from my knowing and my oomph than from my fear. That's one way of defining it. Yeah, love life and living fully is important, that fearless. And the beautiful thing about this work is that you start to develop much more nuance and range. To go out into the world and just feel the beauty of nature without some kind of force dragging you down, that would be amazing. And so if you're exploring, oh, okay, starting with going out in the world and feeling the beauty of nature. So that's a state of, you could call that a state of being, an emotional state of being. I am in nature and I am feeling for its beauty. I am noticing, I'm smelling, I'm looking, I am listening, I am maybe tasting, I am using my sensors, I'm feeling my connection to the earth. All of that can be being in nature, the beauty of nature. Now, there's always a force dragging us down, like gravity, to use the physics one, and I'm not making light of it. Our next workshop is going to be what suppresses you. And this is so common. The things that are really meaningful for us, if we're not experiencing them pretty regularly, my guess is that they've been suppressed, that you have blocks of beliefs and other things which act as a suppressor on those feelings. Anger is a kind of obvious one. People's anger is often suppressed by others. It's scary. It's noisy. It's disrespectful. It's a lot of things. Where we're going to be exploring like the energy of anger and how to be with that so that it actually gives me a fire for life. For example, that could be a why for someone. I want to have more fire for my life. And I feel like knowing that energy, emotional state of anger. No, I'm not going to express it the way my drunken dad did, but I'm going to be with that feeling. Some people might call that feeling the beauty of nature as I want to be present with things that activate my my sense of beauty. So is that a I don't know if there's one word that describes that, but to me that's an emotional state. Yeah. Yeah, in the one of the things that I'm trying to do is a lot of times if you'd asked me before I had any emotional skill, like, how do you want to feel? I don't want to worry all the time. I'm tired of feeling stressed. Like, that's would be my answer. It would be a not. It's what I didn't want that would be so big and hairy and ugly and smelly and putrid right in my face that that's all I could say. And that's one of the advantages of groups and coaching is that, okay, you don't want to feel that right there with you. What would you call the feeling that is not that? Because there are hundreds of different like vibes that you could have that are not like worried and anxious. What's one that you'd like to get the practice that? If you're still on the not, continue to look for the a companion clear. Oh yes, that is something that is not anxious and it's also something that is very clear in and of itself, like playful. My inner experience of being playful doesn't mean necessarily that I'm rolling around on the floor. It could be, but I have the experience, if I'm playful, there's a little different smile, like, I'm feeling playful, right? My laugh changes. I'm aware of that, and just by inviting and for some, playful will be like, "Damn it, I never got to play as a child, and I'm actually a really playful person." Ah, there's a there's that first, of I didn't get to do that, and there may be feelings that come with that. But the the movement is, playful is what's drawing me. It is something that I am. I will turn to somebody else and say, if they say, "I wanna be more playful." Do you feel like a is there an inner playful person in you? No? Okay. What does feel true? Well, not I enjoy people being playful. Oh, so you're an enjoyer. Yeah. You feel the difference there, and that's you may not land on exactly what's right for you, but part of diversity, especially neurodiversity, especially emotional sensor diversity, which culturally we haven't even there's some talk about empaths and highly sensitive people, but if you take someone who's a highly sensitive person, wow, there is such a spectrum of sensory aspects. There are people that really are the ones that can take in beauty, but they're not going to necessarily put it out again as poetry or art. But their essential quality is I take it in. I take it in and I feel it. And if you've ever been somebody that has created a work of art, it's often, in my experience, the person that, to me, that's an exquisite quality in the ecosystem, the person who can take in beauty, even if they can't articulate it back. And so caring. Yeah. And as you tune into caring and you imagine yourself walking in the world where if there's a if there's a situation that you ask yourself like, "Oh, what would be caring here?" And including yourself in that. So caring includes the me space and the we space to me energetically. Now, somebody who really needs wants to attune to self-caring, that like adding the word self-caring would change it. For somebody that's a mom or a dad, or like if somebody works in a team in a business, applying caring is different than if you're in the process of writing something in solitude, for example. Being comfortable with my own anger would mean that I would feel identify when it arose, and then I'd be able to begin to develop skills in using and handling it as harmlessly as possible. That's a pretty substantial ask. Yeah, good. I love substantial asks. I'm right there. I whatever you're really wanting to go into, this matters to me. This is my 30-year mission. This is like emotional freedom for all says we start with something that matters to you and we develop all the different ways so that you can really know that for yourself and experience it to be what matters to you. Um, yeah, my blood pressure would be lower. That's a why. I encourage continuing to stack those. So my blood pressure would be lower. If my blood pressure was lower, I would feel more of a movement toward well-being. Oh, yeah, there would be a movement toward physical well-being, that my inner pressures would be more balanced and there would be whatever. You get the sense of it? Feeling content would allow me to be myself, be present in the moment, more connected and emotionally available in my relationships. I'd be able to help more people in my business and be visible, receive more help myself, and feel more fulfilled. Yeah, I'd also have the abundance and freedom I desire. Isn't it interesting that when we tune to like content, look at the cascade effect. And this is where all those other things start finding their way into our thriving experience. We focus on the one and it holograms out into our whole emotional ecosystem. Um, I keep coming back to calm and confident, but it feels like it's not my words because of how it's used so commonly here. But that's what I keep arriving back at. So, if I had more consistent access to and more skill with calm confidence, my sense of being grounded and unflappable and more resourceful, less inclined to be negatively affected by others' views and opinions. So, in your description there, for example, grounded or unflappable, resourceful, first, that feeling of being resourced. If I'm feeling depleted, it's hard for me to be calm and confident. So I can go through the door of I am choosing the feeling of resourced to focus on. What resources me? Oh, this resources me. And when I do this, I feel more resourced. And when I do this, my resource goes down. So if I'm going to be doing that, I know that to feel more resourced, I'm going to choose from these other things. So if calm and confident is the state of being, but it's not the doorway that's right for you now, you can take all the work that you've done on being calm and confident. And if you just take one sliver of it first, wow, you could really go into what does it mean to be resource for me? How do I want to use my resource? Oh, it takes resource to calm. Okay. It takes resource to confident. Yeah. So you're using calm confidence. If you've got any of that you've practiced and you're layering something else on it. Eager for me, if I didn't have calm and confident as a foundation, would not be ripe. Unflappable. So there's a quality of, okay, what flaps me? Okay, that flaps me. Am I going to change how I am with that? So you could take what flaps me, and the intention is unflappable. If I was really designed not to be unflappable in a neutral way, but like to have a kind of skill with my energy that it would take really quite something to flap me. And I already have a big dose of that. Most people don't look at me and say, wow, he is so flappable. But I'm wanting to take it to the next internal level, not just the level that other people might perceive. So playful. I love playful too. I think I used to be a lot more playful years and years ago. I think I enjoyed it, but I've suppressed it. I love working with playful. It is so suppressed. Probably if I wasn't working on eager and that was really my guidance, playful, you think you're with your 2-year-old, am I playful? Yeah, I have a playful nature. And where does it get suppressed? It gets suppressed when I feel like I have to be on guard, right? Or I have to be parenting. So that's where I start getting flapped. My playfulness gets suppressed and I'm like, "Oh, no, be careful there," blah, blah, blah. Like that's one of the things. So I can apply eagerness. Oh, a deer and I are going to the playground. I could like, "Oh, I wanna be playful at the playground." But eager can be like, "I wonder what her body is gonna be interested in and the dance of other people." And I approached it with eagerness, and then she did something that really wasn't playful. She did the monkey bars at 2. Now, she didn't go all the way across, but she held herself and she could hold herself for 30 seconds or so. And just she looked so proud. And just because I was eager, I was open to noticing something like that. Again, you can go into it with playful. There's so much freedom in this. Take in beauty and can take in beauty, yes, without a weight tied to your leg. I if if my experience is that when I take in beauty, there's also noise, I still can practice the emotion of to me, an emotion is energy in motion. It hits my sensors in a certain way. So if I'm taking in beauty and there's a very loud motorcycle going by, it is not the same experience as if I'm like pausing and I see someone's background picture is sunrise or sunset. And I can take in that beauty even though I have other things that I'm engaged with. I said in one of the letters, I have clients that are dying, but they know it. They don't know how long, and they want to feel like they can still feel something like take in beauty, even though there's a lot of other things, physical pain or logistics or regrets or other things also coming up. I believe that the things that we're talking about here can be done not in denial of other things that are going on in our lives and in the lives of other people. It's an experience that we can still have access to. And if you have doubts and noise coming up about that, we're going to address that. Circle calls are a great place for this. People that are joining this program are also getting a circle membership so that you can attend the open circles. They're not recorded, so people feel freer usually to share what's alive for them. This is again a devotion of mine, not just for me personally, but to have a kind of circle where we can practice taking in beauty. And if it's like, what blocks us? What noise comes up? What beliefs act to suppress us? And then the clever and creative parts. Oh, how could I weave this into my day, my moments? Someone said my smiles would be more frequent. And I also like easily adaptable. So some people there's an emotional experience of being adaptable. It's a slightly different vibe from being flexible. There's a vibe of being responsive like to me, the vibe of being responsive is I can hear a request or be aware of it, and I can choose my response in a way that is true and right for me, and also being responsive to the other person. So responsive is a practice. Okay. Any closing thoughts? Find a schedule of calls. If you just signed up for this workshop, you'll need to become a circle member. That's on a gliding scale. You can go to thrivingnow.com/circle. There are scholarships available, full and partial, if that's where you are in your life. Yeah. Sweet hot boundless joy. I would call that like one of those flavor blends. And that's what we talk about with calm and confident. To me, that is an emotional state. We're going to be exploring because suppression often hits because we're trying to keep like people suppress their anger and get really good at it because they don't want to go into a violent act, into a state of being where their primitive brain is taken over and is just running roughshod over things that matter to them and people that matter to them. And so they suppress the anger. Same way with eagerness. Eagerness is not always consensual. I got my own coaching session from someone around that. So, yeah, suppression. Yeah, thank you for putting that link. The member homepage, thrivingnow.com/member, that takes you to that has the schedule further down as well as the courses. So, anything else from anyone? Yeah, if you know you're a circle member, you can get to that course link that's there and also the email support@thrivingnow.com for follow-up questions, feedback of a private nature. You're welcome to. My eagerness is deep and profound desire to to know that we as humans, amidst everything that's going on, can build a real skill to know that something matters, some expression of us matters to us. And as blocked as it is, or as unsupported in other parts of other compartments of our world, that we can craft a way together or with support so that we get to experience that part of us. I call that our heartistry. It is what makes us unique. And every one of these word terms for each of us is going to be a unique emotional experience that I know that runs along, has all these different amplitudes of from ecstatic level all the way down to that wisp that you can get that just feels so right in the quiet moments too. Inbox is open and we continue. Thank you all. Bless you. Appreciate you. Bye for now.